There are moments on live television that stop the world. Not the breaking news alerts, not the scripted emotional segments carefully prepared by producers, not the rehearsed tears over feel-good stories. This was different. This was real. Savannah Guthrie, one of the most composed, polished, and respected anchors in American broadcast history, faltered on live television. And the silence that followed lasted only seconds, but those seconds said everything. Millions of viewers watched, and millions of viewers felt something shift. Because when someone that strong, that professional, that always put together breaks down in front of a camera, you don't change the channel. You lean in. You hold your breath. You feel something you didn't expect to feel on a Tuesday morning. But here's what the cameras didn't show you. Here's what the producers never discussed on air. Here's what the headlines missed entirely. Because behind that moment of raw, unfiltered emotion was a story that had been building for years. A story of personal battles fought quietly, of sacrifices made in silence, of a woman who carried more than most people will ever know, and carried it with a smile, a blazer, and a perfectly timed cue. This is not just a story about one moment. This is the story of who Savannah Guthrie really is, what she survived, what she lost, what she almost lost again, and why that moment on air wasn't a breakdown at all. It was a breakthrough. Stay with us because this story is worth every second. Picture this. It's early morning in New York City, the kind of morning where the city is already buzzing. Before most of the country has poured their first cup of coffee, the lights inside Studio 1A at Rockefeller Plaza are bright and unforgiving. Every blemish, every shadow, every flicker of genuine human emotion exposed. Savannah Guthrie has walked into that studio hundreds of times. Thousands, actually. She knows every camera angle, every floor mark, every producer's voice in her earpiece. She knows when to smile, when to pivot, when to hold space for a grieving guest without making the moment about herself. She is, by every professional measure, exceptional at what she does. But on this particular morning, something was different. You could feel it before you could see it. There was a weight behind her eyes that no amount of studio lighting could erase. A tension in her jaw that no amount of professionalism could fully conceal. And when the moment came, when the words hit her in a way she hadn't fully prepared for, the armor cracked just slightly. Just enough, and the world saw it. But to truly understand why that moment mattered so deeply, you have to understand who Savannah Guthrie was long before the cameras were ever pointed at her. She didn't grow up dreaming of television. She grew up dreaming of law. Born in Tucson, Arizona, raised partly in Melbourne, Florida, Savannah was the kind of kid who asked too many questions and stayed up too late thinking about the answers. Sharp, relentlessly curious, and gifted with an ability to get to the truth of a thing, a gift that would define every chapter of her career. She earned her law degree from Georgetown. She practiced law. She was good at it. But something kept pulling her toward storytelling, toward journalism, toward the place where facts met human lives and both were changed in the telling. So she made the leap, and she didn't just land, she soared. From local news to NBC, from correspondent to White House press corps, from early morning fill-in to co-anchor of one of the most watched morning programs in the country. Every step was earned. Every promotion was the result of grit, intelligence, and a fierce refusal to let the pressure of live television get the better of her. She became the anchor that other anchors respected, the journalist that politicians feared sitting across from, the face that millions of Americans woke up to. Trusting, familiar, warm, and yet behind all of it, behind the blazers and the bright lights and the perfectly modulated voice, Savannah Guthrie was carrying things the audience never fully knew, or things that were about to catch up with her. There is a particular kind of loneliness that comes with being the person everyone else depends on. It's not the loneliness of isolation. It's the loneliness of visibility, of being seen by millions and truly known by very few, of performing stability so consistently that the people around you forget you're allowed to be unstable, of being the anchor in every sense of the word while quietly wondering who anchors you. Savannah Guthrie knew that loneliness intimately. She had built a career on presence, on being fully there, fully engaged, fully reliable. But presence sustained over years and decades takes a toll that doesn't show up in ratings or reviews. It shows up at 3 a.m. when your mind won't stop. It shows up in the quiet moments between segments when the smile fades and the real feelings finally surface. It shows up when something in your personal life begins to fracture and you have exactly 90 seconds before your mic goes live again. And Savannah's personal life had seen its fractures. Her first marriage ended, a chapter closed publicly, enough to sting privately. She rebuilt. She moved forward. She found love again with Mike Feldman, a political consultant who became her partner in the truest sense. Steady, grounded, wholly committed to the life they were building together. But the building wasn't without cost. There were the fertility struggles, the quiet heartbreak of wanting something deeply and not knowing if your body would cooperate. The kind of private pain that doesn't fit neatly into a morning news segment, but sits with you through every single one. Then came the pregnancies, the joy, the children, Vale and Charlie, who changed everything about the way Savannah understood what really mattered. And with them came a new version of the old tension. How do you give everything to your career and everything to your children and somehow still have something left for yourself? She managed it. She always managed it. But managing and thriving are two very different things. Behind the scenes, people who worked closely with Savannah often described the same quality. She was relentlessly positive and privately exhausted in equal measure. She lifted the energy of every room she entered, and she rarely let anyone see what it cost her to do that every single day. Then came the health crisis that changed everything. In 2016, Savannah Guthrie began losing vision in her right eye. Quietly at first, then faster, then frighteningly fast. She had suffered a detached retina. And then, as if the universe had decided one scare wasn't enough, she suffered a second injury, an accidental poke to the eye during playtime with her daughter that threatened the sight she had only barely managed to save. Think about that for a moment. A journalist, a woman whose entire career depends on her ability to read, to make eye contact, to project confidence and clarity, facing the potential loss of her eyesight. And through all of it, she showed up. She sat in that chair. She read those headlines until one morning, she couldn't quite hold it all together. There are things we ask of public figures that we would never ask of ourselves. We ask them to be consistent when life is inconsistent. We ask them to be calm when the world is chaotic. We ask them to grieve publicly, but not too much, to struggle visibly, but not too visibly, to be human, but only in ways that fit neatly inside a 2-minute segment. Savannah Guthrie had been meeting those impossible expectations for years, and what most people don't fully appreciate is the particular pressure of morning television. It is not glamorous in the way people imagine. The hours are brutal, arriving at the studio before most of New York City has even opened its eyes, reading briefs, preparing segments, coordinating with producers, managing the unpredictable chaos of live news all before the sun has properly risen. There is no room for bad days. There's no calling in sad. There's no quietly falling apart in the break room and then taking the afternoon off to recover. You sit, you smile, you deliver, and then you do it again tomorrow.